So we just wanted to start out. Congrats on the position, by the way, with the
you.
College Football Playoff Committee. Just you want to make a statement about something you're excited about with the committee, and I guess just how did they approach you about it too?
Yeah, well, I was called last year and said that I had been nominated, but I wasn't sure I was going to be on until they went through their voting process in January, which is when they do at the national championship game when they meet. So I got the call after that, and I was really excited. And having served on the NCAA men's basketball selection committee, I kind of understand the process to some degree because I know their guidelines and policies and procedures that they installed for the operation of the committee were similar to the basketball committees. So I felt pretty comfortable that I could transition in, but probably the thing I'm most excited about is the people. Working with Tyrone Willingham, who I've always respected. I've known him a long time, and Bill Hancock, who's the executive director, I've known a long time. Tom Jernstad was actually ran the NCAA men's basketball committee for the NCAA when I was on the basketball committee. So a chance to go back and work with him. He's a committee member. Just so many good people, which would really be really cool.
And you're taking over for Coach Alvarez.
Yeah.
What's your relationship like with him? Has he told you anything about in-season process, the demands of the job?
Not yet. I've known Barry for a long time. And we meet in our Big Ten meetings in February 23rd. So I'm anxious to sit down with him in Chicago and pick his brain and have him, tutor me a little bit on things. And so he'll be a great resource for me. And I don't think he's retiring soon, so I'll always have the ability to call him and get his advice. And that's the great thing about alums off of committees. It's the same thing that holds true for the basketball committee. The alums kind of stay engaged to some degree, and you can use them as a resource. And so I'm anxious to sit down and talk with him.
Right. And then talk about the NCAA Attorney Committee a little bit, just what you experienced through that. And you're still on the committee, correct?
No, I'm off of the basketball committee.
Okay.
So I've been off for a while, and now I'm on the NCAA Basketball Oversight Committee. So the Selection Committee reports to the Oversight Committee.
Okay.
And we oversee a lot of different things besides the selection. But it was cool. It was a great time, and then some great basketball games that I had a chance to see. But being in the room during the week of selection week when you're sequestered, with all the other members of the committee, great experience and a lot of debate about teams, particularly when you get to those last at-large teams and some fun memories of debates that we had about different teams. And so it was a great experience, and it was kind of like being on a team again, and everyone sets aside their differences, and you really come together to try and do what's right. And so that was fun, and saw a lot of great venues in basketball, and just a really exciting time in my life. So now I started for football. It's cool.
Now, was there travel involved with that as far as seeing doing the eye test and stuff on the teams?
Yeah.
And then I'm assuming with this position too, it's going to be the same way.
Yeah, I don't know if the eye test will be as big for this one as it was for basketball.
How much do you value the eye test?
In basketball, I valued it a lot. I had the Big East, for example, when the Big East was really strong, and they were very physical in their play. And I used to go to Pittsburgh, which was an easy drive, Cincinnati, or sometimes I'd go to Georgetown, and because they were kind of close, and there were hubs where games always occurred, and so I could see up personal, the guy, they might be listed as 6'5", but they're actually 6'2", or it might be 6'11", and actually might be 7 foot. So there were those type of things, and see how guys moved and played, and how the team was from a camaraderie point of view. It was important for me to see that, and so I did a lot of travel during that time frame to see basketball teams. I don't know, and I'll defer to my new colleagues to teach me how important that is in this process. It's a different game.
Yeah.
And I was just telling somebody Sunday that there were 36 televised basketball games this past Saturday. And so that'll be different for football.
Right.
Got a lot more games to see, and this will be a lot different. And so I got a lot to learn, and just anxious.
What was your level of football viewership last year, and how do you think that's going to compare to it this year?
Probably increase, probably triple, but triple in the amount of time. I watched a lot of games. I mean, when I'm watching our game in our suite, we usually have a TV on with other games on, and then in the back we have another TV on. So and then depending upon the time of our games, I always watch games before our games, or hopefully got home in time to catch the West Coast games, which I love watching the West Coast games at night. So I watch games. I love them. I saw Washington play a number of times, and so now I watch it from a different perspective. Now I have to record more games. My Sunday mornings will probably be locked in my dungeon, watching games in a different way. And I think it's important not to just read the stats, but to watch everything. So I love watching the sport. So it's just like basketball. I love watching basketball. So it's a fun part, but it'll be more analytical now. Before I didn't watch, what the guards were doing or their tackles, or now I'll be watching all that.
Mm-hmm. So when the committee originated, so it's been there for 3 years.
Yeah.
Is that something?
Second term, not the first term.
I was going to ask, is that something that you were interested in originally, or?
No, I wasn't. I really wasn't. I thought it would be a daunting task, and I thought it was going to be very difficult. And so I admire what the first team did and how they set it up and the way it ran. Now, obviously, we're the beneficiary of it 2 out of the 3 years, but so I got a little biased view. But I really did like how they set things up, and so now I'm much more comfortable. I had a lot of apprehension at the beginning. I was an old BCS guy, and I saw the value of all the bowls at the top of the pyramid and bowls, and I wasn't as I didn't have this clarity that I have now with the CFP. I mean, they did it right.
So you're able to watch the committee and their decisions from afar, and going into it, I think a lot of people had apprehension about how they were going to make their decisions. So what have you learned from watching the decisions that they've made?
Right. I think the greatest thing is their confidentiality. And I think that's very important. And I know all the people in the room, they have great integrity. And, they were highly confidential in how they went through their process, made their decisions, and then ultimately they announced their decisions, and, people could kind of figure some things out, but not all. And I respect that. And I think that creates an environment for people to feel comfortable in the room. You can say what you want to say and not worried about it being read about or tweeted about outside the room. Once that confidentiality is breached, then it creates an environment where you're not comfortable just being totally open and your guard 100% down. And that's the great thing that I enjoyed about the basketball committee. When we were sequestered, we left our phones in the room. There was, it was lockdown. And we could say anything we wanted to each other, and we said some things. And so I imagine that there are some things said in that room that allows you to ultimately come to a good, unanimous or close to unanimous decision. So that part of the operation I liked, and so there's so many more things I have to learn about. What they do in the room, but that's probably the one thing that I admire the most.
It is confidential in that you don't get to see the decision being made,
right?
But you do get to see each week how the teams align during the latter portion. And now the NCAA, the basketball, they announce they're going to do that. Yeah. Do you agree with them doing that, or would you rather have it be just silence and then at the end therefore?
Yeah. So no, I liked it. I'm on the men's basketball oversight committee, so we approved it last week in Nashville, which is why it was announced today, and it's been talked about for a long time. Even when I was on the committee, it was talked about. We didn't have enough guts to do it, frankly. We were weak. But it is the right thing to do because there's so much interest in it, right? And then you have all the third-party media people doing it anyway. So why not enter the fray? And that those rankings will change over time. Throughout the basket from February 11th on, it's going to change. But a super majority of it probably won't. in basketball in the top 16. They might slide from one spot to another. What I liked was the other part. Everyone's talking about the rankings, but they're also going to bracket it out. And so that's going to be really interesting. So it's such interest in it. Why not take the veil off and try and let people into that part of the room? And so I think it'll be fun. It'll be fun. Create more debate.
Right.
That's the passion and interest. It'll be cool.
Right. So having your personal feelings, whether it be like a head-to-head conference schedule, whatnot, you think that a lot of people, a lot of criticism has been not having clarity as in how they're going to vote, especially this year with Ohio State and how Penn State had the conference over them. Do you feel it's best to just keep that out of the public so there's not as much lobbying going on? Or what's your thought on that? Like, are you okay with being more clear, having
why they made the decision?
Or having just individuals' thoughts, like your thoughts on head-to-head?
Yeah, I'll never talk about my preferences. You guys can ask me, well, what's your criteria? What are you going to use in the room? I'll never talk about that, and because one is my criteria, integrated with the criteria of my colleagues. And that is the great thing that I enjoyed about the basketball committee. We had a guy by the name of Stan Morrison on the committee. He's from the West Coast. I love him. And we would argue all the time about different things. And in the end, we'd come out 99.9% of the time on the same page. And so I think it's important for each committee member to have their own criteria, what they view as important, and have that challenged in the room as it relates to a particular team, because the criteria will change. And so, I think once you pull the curtains back on that, then it gets back to that ability to be open and free, and I think that is so important. I just think it's so important. We need to come out collectively on our decision and all stand behind one another. And when you take the veil off, I think it makes it very difficult to do.
So that methodology worked really well at the NCAA tournament committee, especially, was it 2010, 2011? Or?
Oh my goodness, when we I was the chair.
Yeah, you were
we
chair.
Put VCU in. We didn't have Virginia Tech in.
You put Kentucky with Ohio State.
Oh my God! Oh my God! I got killed. I was getting ready to go on a CBS show, and I was already pitting. And I went to see VCU in person 3 times, and they have transfer players, and I'm like, these guys can play. Yeah, they can play.
Well, you're proved right.
And ultimately, I got lucky. I was proved right. There's something right in my life, but they were. So I think if in the end, I think when you know and feel confident in what you're doing, and you create an environment where everybody in the room can tear it apart and debate it, then you're going to, the majority of the time, come out on the right side. And in that situation with VCU, it was just almost unanimous in the room. Once you saw them play, if you took their name off, we did this on occasion, put people's stats up, no name, because that's the thing about basketball, it's so hard, they brand the team, right, so you take that off and you look at what they did, you look at their stats, their rebounds, their assists, their steals, their turnover ratios, that's the team. And so, fortunately, some of us had also seen him in person. Ron Wellman, AD at Wake Forest, was on the committee, and he saw him in person, so he co-signed in my feelings. And so anyway, long answer to your question, but yeah, we got to do that stuff.
So is it required for the CFP committee that one AD from each conference is part of the committee? We were looking at the...
No, I don't know that. It's a question. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think that's a requirement. Right. I think they look more at background experience and try and be sensitive to geography.
Right.
But I don't know the answer to that for sure.
But you have to be out of the room when they're discussing Ohio State,
Oh yeah,
correct?
oh yeah. I think that's so appropriate. And I had that experience again on the basketball committee when we were doing really well in basketball. And I had to go out the room quite a bit. The strangest thing was coming back in the room. What happened? What did they do? So
would they brief you on it then when you came back in there?
Yeah. And actually, at the beginning, they did not. And then I forgot was Tom O'Connor was the chair at that time. He changed that. So when people came back in the room, they gave you a briefing. And
Gotcha.
So I think I don't know if the CFP does that or not. I imagine they would.
Now, what
It's
about
good
with Notre
practice.
Dame that you played for them?
I don't work there. I don't work there. I had a great 4 years there. No, actually 8 years. I worked there. I did work there, played there. But those 8 years are gone.
So you already said that you're going to be listening a lot to the people that are going to be on the committee already. But given you know what works as far as the basketball tournament committee, are you going to take those experiences and try to apply them here?
Oh yeah, no question.
So what are some of those too?
It's the one that is starting with the confidentiality. What's said in the room stays in the room, and then I'll get into my own criteria on how I judge teams, and again that I won't talk about, but I'll get into that and go through that process and listen to others and what theirs are and what they see that I might miss. I've always felt through the eyes of others you see yourself, and so you have to be a person that listens well in that room and be objective and be open to understand that you might be wrong. And that's the greatest thing about that committee room is people are open and able to say, you know what, I get it, you're right, and so you have to have that level of humility and understanding and self-awareness where you can do that. And so that's what I'm going to bring to the room as far as me personally. I have my own criteria on how I judge a team, but personally, I'm going to come to the room with ears open and listen and question and make sure I see everything I need to see to make a decision with integrity.
Okay. Go ahead, Colin.
So you spoke about your experience with the VCU and putting them in.
Yeah.
So did your experience on the men's basketball side and the fact that you would get that kind of criticism affect whether your decision about whether you wanted this position at all?
No, not really. No, that taking those bullets, so to speak, didn't change that. At the beginning when they first created it, I was still hung up in the BCS model. Then I was just apprehensive about how it would work, and they set it up so perfectly that when I got the call to say I was a nominee, I was like excited then because I said okay, and my talents and skills probably would not have been as good at the front end and setting it up. They're good now that the system's set up. I'm that type of guy. So I think I'll be able to contribute that way. But no, I wasn't worried about, if I ended up out front trying to defend it, I'll be fine.
So
I've had a lot of those in my life.
Yeah. So going back to the beginning, when you got the call that you were a nominee, had you expressed any interest or out of the blue?
No,
or they
it
just
came out of the blue. No, I had not.
So they just thought that they. Yeah. Do you have any idea about why they chose you?
I frankly don't even know who nominated me. I think I'm fortunate. I've been blessed with an unbelievable resume of experiences in this football. So I played it, coached it at the highest level. I think they look at my background and say, and probably compared it to other candidates and in my experience on the basketball committee, going through that type process. So they probably looked at all that and people on the committee, majority of them knew me as a person, so that probably helped me. So I don't know who nominated me. I don't know how it happened. I'm just glad I'm on it.
So the reservations, I guess, maybe you had when they first said they were going to the playoff, given that, Ohio State got the nod, whether that you thought...
Then I felt really good about it.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm asking.
This is good.
Yeah. I mean, it worked out great for you guys. Obviously, you got a national title, but
Mm-hmm.
Had they been left out, would you have you still had reservations on the playoff?
Probably not. No, because what I had reservations about was process and structure and guidelines, and I think that they probably looked at how the basketball committee did it, and then they kind of modified what was needed in order to make it fit for football. Because there's less teams,
right?
So you had to do something, and so no, I think if we weren't in 14, then that wouldn't have changed my thought. I was more trapped into how you'd come to the decision, and now that would have been the wrong decision. It would have pissed me off at the time, but it wouldn't have made me think less of them as people in the process, because that's all of them have integrity.
Now going back to the VCU thing, like they didn't win their conference, and you just looked on their eye test and you saw a team that was obviously deserving, and OSU getting in this year in the playoff set a precedent, first non-conference champ to get in. Are you prepared that the more you go on, especially it being just the fourth year, there are going to be precedents set almost every year that haven't been done before?
Yeah, I think that's the way you got to do it. I mean, I think you look at the snapshot in time. I don't look at it as precedents. That's history.
Yeah.
You look at the teams that are in that this year, 2017. Those teams, your own criteria, the criteria of your teammates in the room, you vet them. To me, it's got nothing to do with the last 3 championships. And when those things are over, so I don't look at it as we got to do the same thing or we did that 2 years ago. It's got nothing to do with this team in front of me. How good is this team compared to the other people we're talking about? And then I invoke my criteria, and my teammates invoke theirs, and we come out to a conclusion. Now, unless I learn something from my teammates, which I probably will, I kind of look. I'm thinking we're going to look at 2017 and the teams in 2017 and how they fall out.
So branding, like you mentioned before, is it difficult to kind of take that out?
It's so hard.
Yeah.
But you have to.
Yeah.
You have to. Or Duke would be a number 1 seed all the time.
Right.
Right? And Kentucky would be a number 2. And Kansas would be a number 3.
You got Michigan State's going to be on the bubble this year.
Exactly right. I mean, Tom is holy smoke. So I think you have to be open and so yeah.
So when you go forward in the next football season, how are you going to divide time between being AD here and on the committee?
First and foremost, I have a great staff.
Yeah.
I really do. I'm blessed. They're a great team of people I work with, and they get the job done. And the work that I'll do as far as the studying teams will primarily be done probably late Saturday night, unless we have a night game, which means it'll be early Saturday morning and then Sunday mornings. And sometimes I'll come in on Sunday mornings and check the stadium, all that kind of stuff. But I'll have time on Sunday mornings, and we may have a women's volleyball game that night or something. But usually my athletic events on Sundays after football games are minimum. So I'll do a lot of studying then, and then the travel is mostly Mondays and Tuesdays when we meet, starting in late September. So it'll be doable.
Yeah.
I teach a class. That's going to be my interesting challenge. I co-teach a class with my wife, so I still have to do some negotiations there. So
got to consult the missus.
Yeah, exactly right. So it runs 8 to 9:30 on Tuesday mornings, so I'll miss probably, I think, 5 of them. So I have to figure that out.
Now, would it be difficult without the staff that you have to balance these things?
Impossible. I have so much trust in the people I work with, and we're totally integrated in the institution, so we're not like an athletic department that sits on an island. So it's not just the staff I work with, it's my colleagues on campus that help us stay on track. And so, but 05, 06, 07, 08, I couldn't have done this.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you consider when you took the job that you've spoke about branding and how hard it is to get that out of your mind, that this is Kentucky basketball, that they're an entity. When you leave the room and the other members are discussing Ohio State, have you considered that maybe they're going to go the opposite way and they want to show that they're objective, and it might like hurt Ohio State at all?
No, they don't do that. Yeah, a lot of people talk about that publicly, but they really don't. And they really don't. They look at the team and whatever their criteria is, they look at that team relative to that criteria. And starting that conversation about taking the brand out, I mean, that's kind of been embedded, in your practice in the room. In basketball, it's the same way. I mean, I already know that in football, they don't look at the brand, and so it won't go one way or the other. That's the integrity part of this. I mean, if you're gonna do what's right for the students you serve and for the collegiate environment you serve, then you got to do that. You have to.
And the more this goes on, especially there was talk this year about an expansion of the playoff. Have you thought about that at all? And what are your thoughts on an 8 and 16 team playoff?
Scary movie. I'll be retired, but it'll probably happen one year down the road. But we have a long-term contract now where it won't happen. But it worries me more from player safety, and we were so fortunate when we made our run. We played the team up north, then we played Wisconsin. Now we're lucky there because we're significantly superior. But then you go play those two teams we played back to back. I don't know if our guys could have played another game, and the physical wear and tear. You guys see our guys. It's not easy. They come into the interview session. They got ice on their shoulders. They got ice on their knees. I just think it's wear and tear, which means if you're going to be sensitive to that, and you're going to be sensitive to Christmas. I'm a traditionalist. I think our players should always have Christmas off. Finals, and most schools are on semesters now, so those finals are kind of in that same week and a half window. And then what happens to the championship games? And then you look at the windows of the other bowl games that are already in that December window. Right. Somebody's going to lose, right? Something's going away. And so, because you can't move deeper into January because you got the NFL. So the reality becomes you're moving back into December. Maybe you're eliminating the championship game from some of the conferences or all the conferences. So those things bother me a little bit. We already got compression with the schedule. So,
and how long's the contract right now for the
I think
four?
It's 22 or 23.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's a little while.
Yeah. But right now, you would say if you had to vote, you would
vote against it.
Yeah.
I vote against it, and I just think our student athletes, the wear and tear on their bodies, and when we made the championship run, we had 12 draft choices in the top 4.
Right.
And so they were pros already. Yeah. I mean, I even wouldn't send Joey Bosa through that. And so, I saw them, and particularly after that Alabama game. I mean, that was a slugfest.
Did you think they had it in them to play another game after that?
I was worried.
Yeah.
I was worried. I mean, because there's so much jubilation. Right, they forget about their pain until they get into the locker room, and they begin to settle, start to take their pads off. Then that adrenaline changes, and your pains become a reality. And I'm like, man. And I thought Urban and Mickey did a masterful job, and they talked about it the following week how they had to help them get their bodies back for that next challenge. Now, and we're talking about games against top-notch competition, right? With all due respect to some teams, you're talking about the best of the best. And for a center or a guard, we all see the receivers, we all see the running back, but think about those guys in the trenches and the pounding they take against the best. And I just don't see it without significant reduction.
Right.
Yeah.
You have
Do you like that your term is 3 years? You think that's optimal?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's like, oh my God, please don't be any longer. 3's perfect. 4 could work, but 3 kind of feels right. So I feel good about it.
So after 3 years, are you going to be done with it, or just evaluate at that time?
Probably be done. I imagine they'll bring somebody else on.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there's an extension thing, and so
Gotcha.
I would probably just be done and done with that type of work and go volunteer somewhere else in the NCAA and help on another committee. My basketball oversight committee duties end next year, so I come off of that.
Okay.
And so I won't add another committee until I'm done with the football committee, and then I'll see where I can help the association.
Have you considered at all how much longer you're going to be at Ohio State?
Until they fire me. It could be tomorrow. So no, I kind of work month to month, year to year, and I don't know what my back end is.
Yeah.
I know that if I can't come to work, positive and energized and passionate like I am, then no one will have to tell me. I'll know it's my time. And but I have some things I want to do for our student athletes, and I want to get them done, and we're working hard on those things. And Ohio State should be the preeminent intercollegiate athletic program in the country, the one that everyone aspires to be like. And we're close. We're coming off our best academic semester in my entire 12 years, and I'm so excited about what our kids are doing. We almost won the Directors' Cup last year, second in the country, and just got to knock Stanford off the coach. So we just have to keep doing the things we're doing, and getting the NCAA volleyball championship here in Columbus.
That was fantastic.
Just phenomenal. And so those type of things we just need to do as an athletic department for our city and for our teams. And actually we're hosting the men's. I forgot about that. We're hosting the men's NCAA championships. We got the women, now we got the men, and our men have a chance to be in it. And so
is that this year? Yeah,
May 4th and 5th. So those type of things, I get jacked up about, and so I got a lot more of those I want to work on, and so I don't have a back end.
Yeah.
Although I do whatever my boss tells me.
Okay.
You guys good? Yeah.
We just got one more thing.
Yeah.
So obviously there's a lot of transition with the football team this year, coaching changes, all that.
Yeah.
How much, say, do you have that, and do you sit down with Urban and the rest of the coaching staff?
Yeah. Well, Urban comes to me. And, we talk about staffing. We did it in December at the bowl game, and right after the game was over, and we chatted about.
Right after the game.
He brings it to me, and he, I need to do this. I want to look at this, and so I can't remember the exact dates, but we had a fluid flow of conversation over days about what he wanted to do, and he began to talk about people, who he wanted to get, and so we went through that process, and he kind of had a vision for what he felt he needed to do, and what he's done is phenomenal. I mean, Ryan Day is like off the chain, and Kevin Wilson is like a mad scientist, and I mean, they're really, really good people, and they fit our culture. And so, he was pretty clear, and we kind of knew Luke had a chance.
Right.
We weren't sure.
It's been like that for a while. Though.
Yeah. He was always. I think he's been ready, and that's the perfect fit for Luke. I'm so happy for him, and so we knew that was a possibility. So we always kind of had Bill Davis in mind. It was already here, and so that was a benefit for us, and so. We chatted about a lot.
So when Kevin Wilson, when you guys were considering him, I have to ask, the way he left Indiana, was that brought up at all?
Oh yeah, we talked about that from the beginning before he even made the call. And so we talked about who would do what relative to betting. And so he had his list to call. I have my list to call, and mine obviously was first to the AD Fred Glass, and who's a good friend, and I've known Kevin for a while, and so we kind of went through the details of what happened there, and I felt comfortable in the end.
Okay.
And so then Urban and I come together and we talk about what we found out, and so we felt comfortable. Kevin sat at this table, and we had a good conversation about what happened there and how it's going to work here. People, we have a culture, and it works. And so I think for him, transitioning into our culture and how we operate won't be an issue.
Yeah. And then when you were talking to Kevin, what is there anything you like to share? Or keep it private
between us.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was man to man.
Yeah, absolutely. But the way when I was reading about it, just seemed like a very convoluted kind of story. Is that what you got when you talked to Fred
I
Glass?
got more details from Fred, and I obviously I won't talk about that. But it gave me a comfort level.
Okay.
And I knew people at Oklahoma when Kevin was at Oklahoma, so I talked to people there. So you look at a person's whole life, and so then you look at the situation he was in and what happened there, and I get it. You know, having done this for 32 years, I get it. And so then it became more about, you know, the eye-to-eye conversation, and he was phenomenal. He was absolutely phenomenal. And of course, Urban has known him for a long time and trusted him. So that helped me. But so he was thoroughly vetted, and he was, you know, we had a good, candid conversation. So he'll fit our culture fine. And our culture is not about an individual. And we all admit we all have flaws. So our whole thing is help each other see themselves. I mean, that's, you know, self-awareness is such an important thing. And if we don't help people see things that they might not see, then we're doing a disservice to our student athletes we serve. We call it the blind spot, you know. And I admit my team, you know, like, Gene, that's your blind spot. Yeah, you're right. So everybody, so you have to talk to people that way. Otherwise, they don't get better. And so if there was ever a peaking of something from him, we'd be on it.